Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really going to get into some major shifts happening right now in the AI world.
Yeah, focusing on the fundamentals, really.
Exactly. Infrastructure, those tricky regulation debates, and just how the whole AI ecosystem is kind of reacting and evolving.
Hmm.
We're using material, you shared those excerpts from the Byte of AI June 3, 2025 daily news script.
And the idea is to, cut through the headlines, pull out what really matters from this material, and try to understand what these updates actually mean for AI's future, its foundations, the money side, how it might be governed.
It's definitely a high-stakes situation unfolding. We'll look at a huge data center deal.
Huge is right.
The pushback against centralizing AI rules at the federal level, and how another company is jumping in, expanding its own AI infrastructure using some really new tech.
And it all feeds into this trending online chat about the AI ecosystem itself.
Okay, let's start with that infrastructure deal. Applied Digital and CoreWeave. The numbers mentioned sound enormous. What are we actually looking at here?
It is a huge commitment. So Applied Digital, they've signed a 15-year lease deal with CoreWeave of value, around $7 billion.
$7 billion. Wow.
Yeah. But maybe even more critical is the power commitment. 250 megawatts just for AI data centers they're building up in North Dakota.
250 megawatts, just to put that in context.
Well, think tens of thousands of homes worth of power, all of it, just for AI number crunching.
Okay, and this isn't happening overnight, right? The material mentioned a timeline.
Exactly. It's phased. The first chunk, 100 megawatts, should be up and running by late 2025.
Okay.
Then another 150 megawatts in 2026. And they're already planning a third site, another 150 megawatts for 2027. So it's a sustained multi-year build-out.
In CoreWeave, they're known for needing, massive compute power for heavy AI work. So Applied Digital is basically becoming a huge landlord for power and space.
That's a good way to put it. CoreWeave needs this guaranteed capacity for, well, over a decade to grow. For Applied Digital, yeah, this is a game changer. It really cements them as a key enabler for the AI boom. They're essentially renting out a dedicated power plant for AI.
Okay, so why does this huge deal matter to, someone listening?
Well, first, it just underscores the incredible speed and scale of AI infrastructure being built right now. It's massive. Second, it shows how these maybe less famous specialized players like Applied Digital are becoming critical cogs in the machine.
Right.
And while, yes, this fuels the power needed for faster AI innovation, it also really shines a bright light on the enormous energy demands AI is creating, that energy piece. That's a whole other conversation waiting to happen.
Definitely. That energy demand is something we'll be tracking. Okay, moving from the physical to let's say, the rules. The material flags this GOP bill on AI regulation. What's the basic idea there?
The core proposal, as presented, is trying to block states from making their own AI rules for 10 years.
10 years, why?
The stated goal seems to be preventing a confusing mix of different state laws, aiming for one federal approach instead.
But that seems tricky, right? Because states aren't just sitting on their hands.
Not at all. The material points out, I think it said over 30 states already have some AI rules on the books.
Already? Like what kind of rules?
Things like tackling bias in AI used for job screening, or maybe in loan applications. Stuff that directly impacts people locally. And that's exactly why this federal proposal is getting pushback.
Okay, so who's pushing back, and what's their main worry?
It's coming from different directions: advocacy groups, civil rights organizations, and, interestingly, even some GOP lawmakers themselves. Their main argument is basically states know their local situations best. They're better placed to deal with specific impacts and fairness issues for their own residents. The source used a pretty strong analogy, saying it's like banning local safety codes while AI races ahead unchecked.
Oof. Okay, that paints a picture.
Yeah. And this whole debate is heating up because, like you said, more states are drafting laws now. It really highlights this tension, the desire for maybe faster, unified progress versus the need for careful, localized oversight to catch potential harms like bias.
So for the listener, why does this regulatory fight matter so much?
Because how this shakes out could really set the tone for AI governance in the U.S. for a long time. Do we go centralized, maybe faster tech development, but risking blind spots on local issues? Or do we let states lead possibly slower, but maybe more responsive to citizen concerns? The material, lays out both sides of that argument pretty clearly.
That's a fundamental question. All right, shifting focus again, but still on the building blocks, Nebius Group, another infrastructure player making moves, according to the material. What's their angle?
Yeah, Nebius Group, they're definitely stepping up their game in AI infrastructure. One interesting thing mentioned is their financing. They're using a debt-free model.
Debt-free. How does that work in this space?
Well, it potentially offers different flexibility compared to companies taking on huge loans for build-outs. Maybe different scaling challenges too, but it's a distinct approach. And their numbers, well, they're pretty eye-popping. A 385% revenue jump just in Q1 2025.
Wow, 385%. That's
Yeah.
explosive growth. What kind of tech are they using to drive that?
They're investing heavily in the absolute top-end stuff, rolling out NVIDIA's Blackwell Ultra platform.
Blackwell Ultra, it's the newest, right?
Exactly. NVIDIA's latest and greatest for the most intense AI jobs. And they're aiming to be a launch partner for something called NVIDIA's Dynamo system, which sounds like a whole integrated platform around this new tech. It's like getting the fastest possible engine for the AI race.
Okay, so top-tier hardware.
Mm.
But the material also mentions something about an ecosystem approach, giving them an edge. What's that about?
Right, that seems key to their strategy. They're not just offering the raw computing power. They have these integrated services like Avreed for accessing specialized AI hardware, and Toloka, that's a platform for data labeling, the human input needed to train AI.
So more of a one-stop shop.
Kind of. Having all these pieces together could make things smoother for clients, maybe give them an advantage over competitors like CoreWeave, who are maybe more focused just on the compute power itself.
Makes sense. What about their financial outlook? You mentioned the revenue jump, but building this stuff costs a fortune.
Absolutely. And the material notes, they expect EBITDA losses until later in 2025, which is pretty normal when you're pouring billions into new infrastructure. But they are forecasting big revenue for the year, somewhere between $500 and $700 million, really riding that global AI wave.
So for you listening, what's the significance of Nebius's expansion?
Well, their growth could shake up the AI infrastructure market a bit, introduce more competition for the established players, and their focus on integration, this ecosystem idea, plus maybe that debt-free model. It might signal shifts in how AI cloud services operate, maybe becoming more comprehensive, more efficient down the line.
Interesting to watch how these different strategies unfold. And, speaking of how all these pieces connect, the material pointed out #AI ecosystem trending on social media, like X. What's driving that specific conversation?
It seems like it was sparked directly by the things we've just been talking about, like Nebius's integrated model and that massive applied digital CoreWeave deal. People are starting to talk more about AI beyond just the cool models.
And looking at everything else needed.
Exactly. All the foundational stuff, the data centers, the services, the power grids, the software layers.
Yeah, the material had that user quote. What was it?
Oh, yeah, something like, AI isn't just models, it's the whole ecosystem, from data centers to services. Nebius gets it. Kind of sums it up.
So what's the general vibe around this #AI ecosystem trend? Positive? Worried?
Mostly optimistic, based on the source material. A lot of recognition, maybe even excitement about how all these different parts are growing together, feeding off each other. Though it did mention some undertones of concern about, sustainability. Can this rapid growth keep up responsibly?
Right. And why is this ecosystem concept actually important for you, the listener, to grasp?
Because thinking about it as an ecosystem is key. For AI to scale up effectively and hopefully responsibly, all these interconnected parts need to work together. The hardware, the data pipelines, the software, the human expertise, the regulations. If one part lags or gets out of balance, it could bottleneck the whole system, stifle innovation, or maybe even create new risks we haven't thought about.
That holistic view definitely seems crucial. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We looked at these huge infrastructure investments applied digital, Nebius showing the sheer physical scale required for AI.
The raw power, the physical space. Then we dug into that really critical debate about governing AI, that tension between federal versus state control, and what that means for fairness and innovation.
Right. And we saw how all this concrete stuff is bubbling up into broader conversations online, like that #AI ecosystem trend, highlighting how interconnected everything really is.
Yeah, it all just underscores how complex and high stakes this moment is for AI. It touches everything from power lines to complex legal frameworks.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Well, as we see this incredible expansion of AI's physical and digital footprint, alongside this intense debate on how to actually govern it all, maybe the question to ponder is, what does the responsible and sustainable growth of this vital ecosystem truly depend on? What needs to happen for it to thrive in a way that benefits everyone?
That's definitely something to chew on. What stands out most to you from everything we've unpacked today?